Hi everyone. So today we are looking at the Battle of Clontarf. Battle of Clontarf happened in 1014. Okay. So a couple of years ago, actually, not 6 years ago, there was lots of exhibitions and lots of things on TV. Lots of brilliant stuff happening around Ireland and Dublin to do with the Battle of Clontarf. I wonder, can anyone can anyone tell me? I can't hear you. I wonder, can anybody guess why 6 years ago? Well, actually, 7 years ago now. God, I forgot about the new year. 7 years ago, why there was so much stuff happening, to do with the Battle of Clontarf. That's right. Okay, it was 1,000 years. Okay, it was 1,000 years since the Battle of Clontarf, 1014. So 7 years ago was 2014. And I remember being in school, in my old school in Dublin, in Knockline, and we did loads of stuff on the Battle of Clontarf. It was fierce exciting. And again, we went into the museum, the same museum you were in with me last year, and there's a huge exhibition on the Battle of Clontarf. Some really, really, really interesting stuff, and I would really urge you, when this COVID thing is finished, that you go in and have a look at it. It's brilliant, because there's exhibition on the Battle of Clontarf, and as well there's exhibition on Viking Ireland. And then up the road from it, down at Christchurch Cathedral, there is the Dublinia Museum as well, all about Viking Dublin. And perhaps some of you have been on the Viking Splash Tour. So anyway, the Battle of Clontarf. Let's have a look. If my PowerPoint decides to work for me. There we go. So the Vikings in Ireland. So the Vikings first came to Ireland in AD 795. So they were around for a few centuries before the Battle of Clontarf. So 795, that was the 8th century. So we're always one behind. So the 8th century was the 700s, because from AD, from 1 up was the 1st century, and so on. Okay. So they came in AD 795, and I wonder, can anybody, before I go into the next section, can anybody remember the name of the island that the Vikings first landed on off the coast of Dublin? You might remember I mentioned that it is a wallaby sanctuary at the moment, which I always just find fascinating. There's an island off the coast of Ireland that is just full of wallabies. It's great. Okay, yeah, Lamb Bay Island. Okay, they attacked a monastery on Lamb Bay Island off the coast of Dublin. Okay, monasteries was one of their favourite places to attack. Okay, why? Because the monks and priests there was a lot of gold. Okay, a lot of very valuable items, gold, silver, lots of different things. Okay, so that's why a lot of monasteries had round towers. Okay, we know there's a round tower. The closest round tower to us will be in Clondalkin, which gives its name to the local GA club, Round Towers. I don't know if any of your parents, I know a few of your folks, parents, grandparents, aunties, uncles live in Clondalkin, just down the road. Perhaps they play with Round Towers GA club. So the reason they had round towers was to stay safe from attacks, because they had height, so they could see Vikings coming, and as well as that, to get in, you had to get a ladder. Okay, so the entrance to the round tower was up quite high, and when they saw the attacks coming, any Vikings coming to attack, they would just pull up the ladder, and they were able to protect themselves. They were not very successful, because the Vikings always found a way. But they were made of stone, so they weren't flammable, and they were able to defend themselves a little better. So that's why a lot of monasteries had round towers, and that's where the most valuable items would have been found. And I'm trying to think, there is a is there an animated movie, The Book of Kells, and it's all about that. Okay, so we'll keep going on here. At first, the Vikings attacked monasteries and towns. They stole treasure and burned. Sorry, I'll put that on. That should be on silent. Apologies, guys. They stole treasure and burnt down houses. Afterwards, they sailed away, leaving destruction and death behind them. Okay, the Vikings in Dublin. Later, the Vikings decided to stay in Ireland after these attacks. They settled in areas on the coast or at the mouths of rivers. We talked about that yesterday. Okay, rivers and the coast for transport, water, fertile land, fish, and so on. Okay, that's why all the biggest towns in the world are on rivers. Okay, think of London on the River Thames, Dublin on the Liffey, Limerick on the River Shannon, and so on. Okay, so they set up our first towns. Okay, Dublin, Wexford, Wicklow, Limerick, Waterford. The Vikings were so settled in Ireland that some of them even started to marry Irish people. Again, there's a phrase that they became more Irish than the Irish themselves. Okay, and we're going to look later on. We're going to look at some surnames, because our surnames tell us a lot about ourselves. Okay, and some surnames that are still around today that originated from the Vikings. Okay, that they, if you have a certain surname, you can trace your ancestry back to Norse and Viking people. Okay, so it's worth looking into. Okay, and as we know, guys, they didn't have horns in their helmets. So did you know, Dublin, Waterford, Cork and Limerick were just some of the towns founded by the Vikings. We learned that yesterday. So Brian Boru, this is the Irish High King who fought against the Vikings. Okay, so not everyone was happy about the Vikings settling in Ireland. One of these people was the High King of Ireland, Brian Boru. By the time Brian Boru became High King of Ireland, the Vikings had already been in Ireland for over 200 years. Okay, because we know the Battle of Clontarf was 1014, and we just learned that they came at the end of the 8th century, the end of the 700s. Okay, so Brian Boru was High King of Ireland. He was High King of Munster. Okay, he was the King of Munster for many years before that. And actually, Brian Boru, we know that on our coins, the coins that come from Ireland have a harp on the back of it, and we know that the harp is a symbol of Ireland, and that harp is actually known as the Brian Boru harp. Okay. So Dublin was under the control of the Vikings at this point. King Sitric was the Viking leader at this time. And I have a very interesting fact about King Sitric now in a minute that I didn't learn actually until I went to the Battle of Clontarf exhibition in the National Museum, and I was quite blown away by this fact, and it's quite surprising. Brian Boru decided he wanted to take back control of Dublin. In 1014 he gathered a large, strong army of Irishmen and marched towards Dublin to fight the Vikings. Okay, so Brian Boru led an attack against King Sitric and the Vikings. Okay, do you know what these ships were called? That's right, longships. Okay, King Sitric heard about Brian Boru's plan. He knew his army would be strong, and he decided that he needed help from other Vikings nearby. So can you think of any places close by that would have Vikings? Okay, so he sent word to Vikings in Iceland, Britain, so Britain was very strongly a Viking country at the time, and the Isle of Man, just off the coast of Dublin. Dublin Bay was soon full of Viking longboats, and on board these boats were hundreds of Vikings ready for battle. I can only imagine what that must have looked like, looking out at Dublin Bay and just seeing Viking longboats as far as I could see, with hundreds and hundreds of and they would have been bloodthirsty Vikings ready for battle. It would have been quite terrifying indeed. On Good Friday, which as you know is the Friday before Easter Sunday, on Good Friday 1014 the two sides came face to face at Clontarf, North Dublin. Okay, and as I learned in the National Museum, in the exhibition, it was more around that area. Okay, that a lot of it was fought in Howth, in Dublin City, and so on. And I suppose, you know, that Clontarf was the most central point of all the battles, so that's why it gave its name, the Battle of Clontarf. And it was a gruesome battle and lasted all day. Okay, and of course, like any battle, many lives were lost on both sides. So Brother, as the Vikings were retreating, okay, because they were beaten by the Irish, a Viking called Brother attacked Brian Boru and killed him. So Brian Boru actually did not take part in the battle. He was in his castle praying, okay, and he was attacked and killed. And his Brian Boru's son and grandson also died that day in the battle. Okay, and the interesting fact about King Sitric. Okay, so the Battle of Clontarf brought an end to the power of the Vikings in Ireland. The Vikings who remained in Ireland began to live peacefully in their towns, and eventually they became part of the Irish people. Now, as I said, guys, the very interesting thing that I found out that blew me away was that Sitric, King Sitric, who Brian Boru was fighting against, Sitric was actually Brian's son-in-law. Okay, and that means that Sitric was married to Brian Boru's daughter, whose name was Sláine. And that just blew me away. Absolutely blew me away. So Brian Boru led an army of Irish people against an army run by his son-in-law. Okay? So I'm pretty sure there was no Christmas presents exchanged that particular year. Okay, so that's the end of that. So let's have a look at some of the surnames that you might come across. I have a few bits ready here. Okay, that's the Irish surnames of Viking origin. Okay, that would be the main one, Doyle. Okay, and lots of Doyles. I'm sure you could all think of somebody who lives close to you with the surname Doyle. Okay, that comes from the Vikings. Okay, and as well as that, there's a few other names here that I came across on this website. Other Norse names. So Norse is another name for the Vikings. Okay, Norse gods: Cotter, Dowdall, Drumgool, Gould, Harold, Howard, Lachlan, Sweetman, and Trant. Okay, and so lots of, we know Miss Trant in school. Okay, so there's some names for you there. Let's have a look here at I've gone again to the museum website. Okay, the museum website, and there is, okay, I'll go back to the home page. Okay, so Clontarf, Brian Boru and the Battle for Dublin. Okay, some great stuff here, guys. Just have a look at that yourself. Okay, and 9 unmissable objects from Clontarf 1014. I think this one's really interesting. This is just general Viking stuff. That these axes were found in a boat in Loch Corrib. Okay, now that is in Galway. Okay, so it just shows how far the Vikings actually went around Ireland. Okay, some spearheads. The one I really want you to have a look at is down here. I think it's pretty cool. Okay, these arrowheads. Okay, selection of arrowheads is from excavations carried out by the National Museum of Ireland at various sites in Dublin. Okay, so there's a very, very good chance, most likely definite, that arrowheads such as these would have been used in the Battle of Clontarf, most likely. Okay, so guys, if you it'd be great if you went off and did some more of your own research on the Battle of Clontarf. Maybe look on Google Maps where Clontarf is, and yeah, so get out and do some of your own discovery. talk to you soon.